This is a short video tutorial on how to write a report for basic moderation. I have asked my students to run the analysis that I demonstrated in YouTube involving these variables. So the problem was about whether bullying influences anger and whether or not peer support moderates the impact of bullying on anger. I asked my students to run the analysis and to write a simple report. And we are now here to take a look at one of the submissions of my students and try to improve that particular report. So this is the output. In the simple slopes, I guess it would have been better if this was arranged accordingly. For some reason, in the output of Jamovi, you have average in the first row. It would have been better if high was placed on top, followed by average, and then followed by low. It would also have been better if this was labeled as B. This is our regression coefficient, same as this one. So this is our unstandardized regression coefficient. In the report, I asked my students to include the objective of the study, the hypothesis. There are more than one. The statistical technique used, the result of the main effects, the result of the moderation analysis, and the result of the simple slopes analysis. Finally, I asked them to include the meaning of the results. So this is the written output of my student. What I did for this video tutorial is I have broken down what my student submitted to me. So in this column, these are the parts of the report that was submitted by my student. In this column, here are the improvements that I have made. For the objective of the study, the student wrote, this study was conducted to examine the relationship between bullying and the level of anger, and to investigate if peer support acts as a moderating variable in this relationship. There has been no change for this particular sentence, so I retained that particular sentence. Next, for the hypothesis, the student said it was hypothesized that bullying will significantly relate to anger. Additionally, it was predicted that, or I think this is peer support, will moderate the relationship in the sense that it will be or it will enhance the level of anger triggered by bullying. So I tried to simplify this, and this is what I propose. It was hypothesized that bullying will positively predict anger. Here, the student only specified that bullying will be related to anger. However, he did not specify the direction of the predictive relationship. So I've specified it here. And then I said, additionally, it was predicted that peer support will enhance the relationship between bullying and anger. So not only did I suggested that peer support will moderate, I also specified what kind of moderation I anticipate, and I anticipate for an enhancing effect. This is not always enhanced. There are many kinds of moderating effect. It could be a buffering effect, it could be an antagonistic effect. Those kinds of effects have been discussed in the lecture, so I'm only specifying here an enhancing effect, and that is I am suggesting that at the lower level of the moderator, I am anticipating that we will see no relationship between bullying and anger, and that such relationship will be stronger at higher levels of the moderator. Next, for the statistical technique, the student said a moderation analysis was carried out to test these hypotheses. I replaced moderation analysis with multiple regression analysis because there really is no such thing as moderation analysis. Moderation is a kind of modeling, and there are different kinds of statistical analysis to test moderation models, including two-way analysis of variance. But in this case, because our variables are measured continuously, the appropriate specific statistical technique used is actually multiple regression. For the main effects or for the results, the student said the results show that the interaction effect between bullying and peer support is found to be significant. The student stated the moderation effect first, but it would have been better if that would have been discussed after discussing the main effects. So this part was actually transferred here. So let's first discuss the main effects. The student said, individually, both bullying and peer support are significantly related with anger. So I had to be more specific. First, the student labeled or used this notation. There is no such notation. I think the student used E because in the original Jamovi output, the column that labels the coefficient is labeled estimates, so I think E stands for estimates, but like what I said, those are unstandardized regression coefficients, therefore the appropriate notation is B and not E. So I said individually bullying positively predicted anger, so that's one idea. On the other hand, peer support served as a negative predictor. So it is important that not only do we say that a variable predicts another variable, we should specify the direction. So in the case of bullying, it's a positive predictor because the coefficient is positive. In the case of peer support, it is a negative predictor because the coefficient is negative. So that is very important. I also edited the way he expressed the p-value. There are both an equal sign and a less than sign. So it should be, this should be corrected as well. So it should be an equal sign because these are exact p-values. I highlighted this because this is actually optional. This one talks about the impact of the moderator on the dependent variable. However, such might not be a part of your objective. If you are simply interested in the influence of the IV and the DV in general, which is this, and you're also interested in the moderation, whether this relationship is dependent on the level of the moderator, and you do not care for the impact of the moderator on the dependent variable, then this part is optional. But sometimes it's also useful to discuss this since the report also shows this. And then the first part here, I transfer it after discussing the main effects. So for the moderation analysis, I said the result also shows that peer support significantly moderated the relationship between bullying and anger, as evidenced by this statistic. So our p-value is less than 0.05. Next, since we have a significant moderation, it is natural for you to discuss the simple slopes analysis. The simple slopes analysis tells us the different effects of the independent variable on the dependent variable at different levels of the moderator. It would not be logical to talk about simple slopes or the result of simple slopes analysis if we do not have a significant moderation. So we're only doing this because our interaction or our moderation was found to be significant. So this is what the student proposed. I tried to simplify it. So I suggested the simple slopes analysis reveal that at low levels of peer support, bullying did not predict anger. However, bullying positively predicted anger when peer support is average or high. Let's see how my student wrote it. Both average and high level peer support significantly enhance the effect of bullying on anger. That sounds somewhat correct, but I guess it would be better if you make it a point that you are discussing the levels of the moderator as conditions when the IV has an influence on the DV. That's why I said at low levels of peer support, when peer support is average, to emphasize that the levels of the moderator are conditions at which we expect different effects of bullying on anger. Please take note that these values are not the effect of low peer support or average peer support or high peer support. These coefficients are the effects of or represent the effects of bullying on anger. Only for this particular effect, this happens at a low level of peer support. Sometimes students mistake this as the effect of peer support on anger, or the effect of peer support, of low peer support on the relationship. To be exact, this represent the effect of bullying on anger at a low level of peer support, and for this at average and high levels. So you will notice that bullying only has a positive effect on anger when peer support is average and high. And then finally, so this is the final sentence or the takeaway of my student. He said the output of the analysis suggests that the effect of help from peers on anger brought forth by a bullying experience varies depending on its level. So you will notice here that this sentence is a bit confusing. The effect of help from peers, which is peer support on anger. So from this phrase, the reader might be confused, or might mistake peer support to be the independent variable to anger. So that's why I try to rephrase this, and this is what I said. The result of the analysis suggests that individuals who are victimized by others, so that is bullying, are more likely to experience strong feelings of annoyance and displeasure or hostility. So this is anger. So the first part is I'm trying to discuss the meaning of the main effects. So this is in general. In general, those who are bullied are more likely to experience anger. And then I talk about the implication of the moderation result. So I said this is especially true for those individuals who have access to help and support of their friends. So I'm saying that this is especially true for those who have average or high peer support. And then finally, because we also learned that peer support is a negative predictor, I also talked a bit about that. Again, this is optional. If you think that this is something that is valuable to discuss, then you may do so. So I said it should also be noted that individuals who do not experience support from friends are more likely to experience anger. And so finally, if we try to compile all of those sentences, I have a couple of typographical errors. Let's redo it. All I did was to simply put together all of these sentences into a paragraph. So this is our revised moderation report. Okay, so I hope that you learned something, and see you again for the next video.